You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Hi, Greg McCollum here with another edition of the Prosper Law Podcast. Thanks for joining me. Today I want to talk about what I'm calling the 8 keys to success. And before I get into that, one of the things I was thinking about with the podcast is I was at this mastermind group, and when you're doing anything, you're always talking about what do you want to say, what is your tagline going to be. Some people call it a magic statement, some people call it a slogan, and that sort of thing. And this is also important for your law firm, obviously, and I've talked about that on other podcasts, is what is your message and what are you saying? And then the podcast intro that we have here, if you listen to it, and there have been a couple of different versions of it, but one of the things that I said when I was on the hot seat in the mastermind group, and we're talking about it, and I think our intro goes something like, if you're desperate for success, step in, or something to that effect. And so there was a discussion that I had with these people, and very smart business people, very successful. None of them are lawyers. They're all in all different kinds of businesses, but we gathered at, I think it was at the Fairfield Inn in Claremont, Florida, outside of Orlando. And so we're sitting in there in this Dan Kennedy style event, and it's actually the people that I work with are, I guess, proteges of Dan Kennedy and people that study that direct mail marketing and something that's often overlooked, but that's a different topic altogether. So desperate for success. And I thought about that was very personal to me because that's where I was. There were 2 things that leap out at me. One is that I had no idea, literally, that there was a way that I could grow my law firm. And it seemed like a wild dream until I found the mentors and coaches and people that knew the path, that knew the plan for me to go down. And I was desperate for success because I had a, really you would call hopelessness, that I'd gone to law school, I'd worked really hard, I'd been through a lot of stress, I was a good lawyer, and I cared about my clients, the judges respected me, I put a lot into my cases, or certainly as much as I could put into them given my time constraints and lack of money and resources. And it was just almost the feeling of like, what have I done now that I'm a lawyer and I have this private practice and it wasn't going anywhere. There was no reason to think that next year was going to be any better than last year. There was no reason to think that 5 years later I was going to have grown 10% a year. And so that whatever that looked like, that I was going to be in a better place than I was at that particular moment. So that was literally desperation. And I don't know if that resonates with people or not. And I don't know if it's the best thing to say, and it may turn people off. But I would say that it's genuine and meaningful to me because I was literally desperate to find a solution. So today's topic is 8 keys to success, and I'll run through them right here. And these are my 8 keys. These aren't something someone else may have a different success formula. Somebody else may say, well, this is wrong or that's right. But when I look at trying to narrow it down, is what's important, what's not important, because you have all these choices in your day. You have all these choices in your week. You have all these choices in your life, and you make all these decisions. And one of the greatest things that you have to do to move forward and go from point A to point B and point C and ultimately maybe to point Z is you have to make these decisions. And because your resources and your time is limited, you have to say no to things. You have to say yes to things. But if you look at it and you listen to people who are very successful, they talk about that you have to say no. There's so many things you have to say no to. And so then you have to focus, or you must focus, or if you want to succeed, you focus on certain things. Now, the 8 keys to success, Greg's version of 8 keys to success, is that you have to have vision, you have to have a plan, and those two are just the basics. Everyone will tell you that. If you don't have a vision that you can see in your mind, and you don't have a plan, a general plan, you don't have to have it all sketched out and know one step to the next, but you have to have an overall plan of how you're going to get there. And then the others are, I've got implementing or implementation, calendar, implementation, calendar, delegating to people or delegation, stopping interruptions, and then persistence. And then the final one is I have A players. You got to get some. So the vision, what do you want to be? All right? As a lawyer, as a law firm owner, as a solo lawyer, as a small firm law firm owner, what do you want to be? This is your vision. Do you have any idea what you want to be? Or are you just getting up every day, getting on the same, say, treadmill of life and just kind of sweating through the day and trudging through the day and going home exhausted and getting up the next day and doing whatever comes at you? It's not selective. If you're not being intentional about what you want to be, then you're just being in reaction to whatever is thrown at you, which is exactly what I was doing for a long time. So what do you want to be? So this includes your practice area. Or do you want to have 7 practice areas because you don't want to miss out on any client or any dollar that you could possibly make? Do you have an ideal client persona? In other words, who do you want your clients to be? And this was something that it never occurred to me that I could choose who I wanted my clients to be. I thought my clients would just be whoever happened to call me. I had no idea that I could direct that intentionally and cause the clients that I wanted to call me. It also has to do with locations and where are you located? Where are you located in the country? Where are you located in your state? In what city? What part of the city are you located in? And I think maybe I did almost a whole podcast about the location and how that drives business or repels business. And also, as part of your vision, I think it was IBM, and I don't know if IBM is a great company now. I just don't know. But at the time they were world leader. And IBM, as I understand it, was International Business Machines. And it's my understanding, like I guess a lot of companies, it started in somebody's garage or little one-room office. And so you got to think about, like when I branded Complete Legal Defense Team and people mocked me and made fun of me, which I actually enjoyed. If you think about, these two schmoes or whoever they were, they start a company which doesn't exist, and they're going to supply business machines. Okay, I guess this is before computers. I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to give a historical record of that. But think about it, somebody or your neighbor or somebody you went to school with, all of a sudden they've got a company called International Business Machines. They have no customers, they have no business, they have nothing. But what they had was a vision. The plan, number 2. What's your plan? And this is not to be confused with how, because if you sit there and you tell somebody, I'm going to do this, I have this grand vision, they'll say, well, how are you going to do that? That's the wrong question, because you don't know how. You will never know how until after you did it. So the plan is that I'm going to do it. That is my plan. And then in the context of what I'm talking about here as a law firm owner, you have to work on your business, not in your business. That doesn't mean you only work on your business, because you have to work in your business, because that's what keeps the lights on. That's what drives the business. You have to do the work. You're the worker. You're the one that has to do the work. So in terms of work on your business, you have to step back at least a little bit, at least a couple of hours a week in the beginning, to think about what steps are going to move you closer to your vision. Because if you don't take any of those steps, you're not going to move any closer. And you likely move farther away and be where I was, where you were just aimlessly drifting and reacting in life. That's not a vision. That's not a plan. You also have to think about when to hire, because if you're practicing law on your cell phone and you don't have an office and you do everything, then you have to think about when to hire. If you have a small law firm, you have to think about when to hire and who to hire. And then also you have to think about where and how to market. And then also, as I mentioned this earlier, you have to be aware of the power of no. You can't go through your life saying yes to everyone and get anywhere, because you have to be discerning and say, this may be fun, this may be exciting, this may be relaxing, but does this move me toward my vision? And if it doesn't move you toward your vision, if it moves you away from your vision, you have to have the determination and strength to say no. And if it hurts someone's feelings or someone doesn't like you anymore, you have to be able to say, I'm not going to do that. This is something that I do monthly, if not weekly. I talk about my law firm, I talk about business, I talk to people that are in business. And just yesterday evening over some drinks, this guy I know was talking about how, because it's the way it came up in the conversation, is that I should add a practice area. And he's adamant about it, that I should add a practice area. And I'm adamant that I'm not going to. Okay? Because that conflicts with my vision. I'm not ever going to be all things to all people. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if it doesn't work out ultimately, it doesn't work out. But that's my unique vision. Now, the other thing is, in this podcast, we talk about learn, grow, become. Learn, grow, become. What's not stated in there, which is the most important part, and so I always bring that up, but it doesn't fit well in learn, grow, become, is implement. It doesn't matter how much you learn if you build up your brain and your knowledge, and you're the most knowledgeable person out there, and you know everything about marketing, you know everything about management, you know everything about everything, but you don't implement something, or you go to a conference and you learn literally millions of dollars worth of advice and techniques, but you don't implement something, you don't implement one thing, then you're not improving. You're not going to move. Your knowledge has no value. It has literally no value if you don't implement things. And many people, certainly like I was, is I would go to my coaching program, I would go to a conference, and they say, drinking from a fire hose, because they're throwing so much at me, and I'm so excited, and I've got this 10-page list of everything that I'm going to put in effect on Monday. At that point, slow down. Don't implement 10 pages of stuff. Don't implement 1 page of stuff. Implement, honestly, one thing, and keep working at it until you've got it into a system where it will keep running and it will keep working without you hovering over it. And then after that is working, and you go to another meeting or coaching program or another seminar, and you find something else that maybe you wanted to do, and you revisit that, after that one thing is implemented and working, then implement one more thing. That's the secret to success. There's no pill, there's no magic formula. That's it. And so if you do that, let's say it takes you, even if it takes you a quarter, even if it takes you 90 days, but you've implemented something and it's working, and it will keep working without you having to hover over it and jump in there and keep it going. And 90 days is a pretty good test for it to keep going. Then go implement another thing. And as you do that, it seems like you're getting nowhere, but you are. And the effects of that do not appear overnight. It takes some time, but that's how it works. And that's the, quote, secret to doing it. One of the things that will help you or enable you to be able to do the things that I'm talking about is live by your calendar. Almost to the extent of being inflexible. I know for my whole life, a lot of times people said, well, the key to success in business is being, flexible, adaptable, willing to pivot and change. I don't know where that came from. And certainly, if you look at a large company, say something like, Blockbuster Video, and they don't pivot, then they just go away. So I'm not saying it in those terms, but I think the key to being in a position to successfully move forward is you use the calendar to protect your time. It creates work time when you will be focusing on this thing without interruptions. It will create deadlines to cause you to do it. Most of the things that good in my life that happen are because they're on the calendar. When I get out my 18-month paper calendar and fumble through all that and say, okay, 12 months from now, I'm going skiing in Colorado. 15 months from now or 24 months from now, I'm going to take my family and fly to Europe and visit these cities. 24 months from now, 18 months from now. Once I get it on that calendar, then I buy a plane ticket, I'm going. And then now I need to find a place to stay. I need to figure out how long I'm going to stay in this place versus that place. It's on the calendar. It's not going to change. If something else great is going to happen, or somebody says, oh, somebody's getting married, we want you to be in the wedding. No, sorry. I can't be everywhere at once. And I decided a long time ago that I'm going to be sitting at a cafe in Paris, okay, on that date. That's not changing. If I decided I'm going to do something for my business at this time and place, that's what's going to happen. So build space in addition to that. And when you look at your work calendar and your court schedule, build in what they call white space. So you have space to literally sit and think and make notes of ideas of what you want to do, let those rest for a little bit, come back to them, and choose some things that you're going to actually implement and work on your business that way. You will make the most progress in your, quote, downtime. If you get alone with yourself and think about what you really want, and you have that space built into your calendar. So when I talk about calendar, I'm not saying that somebody pulls up a calendar and every half hour is meetings. Every half hour is something. You're doing all this stuff. There's an interesting interview where they asked Bill Gates about this because when he met and started working with Warren Buffett on the charity or whatever it was, and they joke about it in this interview, is Bill Gates, who built Microsoft from nothing, said he thought the formula to success was to have his calendar filled so he was maximizing every moment of his life. And that's not what I'm talking about. And then he met Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett, they joke about it. They actually show the calendar, and you look at Warren Buffett's calendar, there's nothing on it because he won't do anything except create that white space for himself so that he's able to do the things and make the decisions that he needs to make. So I'm not talking about cram your calendar full of stuff. Less is more. Put important things on it and guard those, and don't let anybody get them off of your calendar. Don't let anybody schedule something else that seems urgent and important. Guard that time. Use that time to start moving forward. Now, the other thing is delegating. People are leverage. People are leverage. No one's ever built a great company by themselves. Nobody's ever built a great anything by themselves. I mean, maybe a writer, maybe a painter, right? Maybe that they just did it all by themselves, and there's no way to delegate that, even though if you look at, great works of art like the Sistine Chapel and things like that, there were a lot of people in there painting. There were a lot of people in there working on that. There were a lot of artists doing that. So even that's not done just by Michelangelo. But most things, you have to have help. My friend Ken Hardison said, when I'm doing something, because someone said that he got more done than anybody they had ever met, and he said, I think who, not what. Something needs to be done. I think who is going to do it, not what. So he's delegating. He has resources and people that are doing their part of this, and that's key. Also, there has to be a deadline. If there's no deadline, something may never get done. And if there is a task or something, one person has to be responsible for it. If more than one person is responsible for it, nobody's responsible for it. Now the other one, and this is one of my favorite items, and it's interruptions, stopping interruptions. When I walk through my office, everyone's working, and I'm not rude, and they're not rude, but I literally walk right past people, and they walk past me, and we don't say anything to each other. And it seems odd, maybe it seemed odd at first, but there's no chit-chat, there's no small talk. When I walk through the well of my office, because we have the paralegals out there and different people out there on the phones, and they're all at their desks, they're in one big room, they're working, they're focusing, they're looking at their computer, they're talking to somebody on the phone, they're doing something. If I go in there and go, hey guys, how you doing? It breaks everything they're doing. It interrupts them. It stops their workflow. That doesn't mean that we're antisocial. We joke around. We have a stand-up every morning for 15 minutes, which is also going through the calendar. And if we need to talk about something important, they calendar it with me to talk to me. More likely, they calendar it with Kelly, who runs the office, and if she needs me to get involved, I get involved. But we honor that calendar, and by doing that, not interrupting people, you really are honoring them by not interrupting them. The interruptions, to me, are the key to not succeeding. Also, it deals with urgency, where somebody has to tell you this or has to get an answer. And so there are whole books written about this as that, okay, if you have a question or a problem, schedule a meeting. Because what you'll find is by the time the meeting comes up, within themselves, they've already solved the problem. They never needed you to begin with. And so when you use that calendar and they know they can't interrupt you and they're going to have to wait till 3 o'clock today, or they're going to have to wait till 9 o'clock in the morning to meet with you and get the answer, almost always they will solve the problem and cancel the meeting. Now, the other part of this is persistence. It's not magic. There's no secret formula. It's one thing after another that you're doing to improve your business. And the reason I believe that businesses fail is because people quit. And I talk about that in a previous podcast. What is your quitting point? When will you quit? If you won't quit, you're going to succeed. When everything seems like it's not working, everything seems like it's hopeless, when nobody believes in you and nobody's supporting you, and you just keep going, you move into success and greater success. If you study anybody who's been successful, and I mean in a world stage or in a company setting, they wouldn't quit. They just wouldn't quit. They kept going. You have to keep going. And you also have to find something that you love, because this is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Steve Jobs says that you have to love it or you will quit. So find something that you love, even though you think you can't do it. You can do it. It can be your business, and then you'll love it and keep doing it. Finally, the team, the people. Who are your people? There are A players, B players, C players, D players, and F players. You won't necessarily have an entire team of A players. I don't know the answer to that yet. Some people say that if you have all A players, it can backfire on you because there's too much energy. I'm not sure that's true. And people sometimes go up a level and down a level, but by and large they don't. A players are A players. That's who they are. You need them. They are the people, hopefully like you, hopefully you're an A player. Hopefully you're the person with the standards and the desire and the drive to do it. I don't think there's any way that you can build a great company without a great team. I don't think there's any way you can have a high level of success if you don't have some A players. So find some A players. And I like to say, when you're trying to find them and you want to run a want ad or something, an advertisement, and I'm not saying it's 100% true, but in general, A players are not out looking for jobs. Jobs are out looking for A players. So keep your eyes open. They could be anywhere. When you find one, see if you can get them to come to work for you. So these are the 8 keys to success: vision, plan, implementation, calendaring and sticking to it, delegating, stopping interruptions, being persistent, and finding some A players. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you next time. If you want to know more, go to prosperitlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.